Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 148 of the J Situation Podcast. I'm recording this on January 31st, 2023. Oh, man. We're almost done with January. How are you folks doing? Yeah, staying warm. Staying warm, I hope. You know what? I was doing some work this weekend, and I took some photos outside that I was going to post. Like, for example, the photo that you're seeing with this podcast episode, that cool B&T gun with a Mark 23. So I bought one of those B&T Station 6 veterinary pistols to test for you guys. You know, I felt like that needed to happen. So I was fine. I was looking for one for, I don't know, over a year. I finally found one and I bought it anyway. So I was taking some photos of that thing. And it was pretty warm outside. It was like, I don't know, 70 degrees Fahrenheit or so. And now, today, it's like a winter storm. I was like, what the heck? It's like Mother Nature's drunk or something. It's been wild. So I hope you guys are staying warm. But, you know, regardless of the tomfoolery, we are operational and plenty to come this week and onward, I think. We'll talk about that on today's episode, along with a discussion I want to get into with regard to the recent YouTube haberdashery there, the YouTube tomfoolery. We'll figure out what's going on with that. Strange times, I think. Strange times. And I added another last-minute topic to the podcast to give you guys an update on the SCAR project as well. Just received a new part from a company called KNS Precision. Some of you may have heard of them due to their foray into the AR-15 accessory market. Well, they are also making a SCAR product now called the DiSCARder. So I literally, about half an hour ago, just got it from the mailbox here. And so I have played with it, and I'll talk about that as well. Okay? So thanks for tuning in. Let's get on with the show. The J Situation Podcast is now proudly sponsored by Top Gun Range, Houston. That's right. If you are in the Houston area, even if you're just visiting, I think they're worth checking out. In addition to having a 15-lane indoor range, they have the largest firearm rental fleet in the state of Texas. Yeah. You can rent pistols, your rifles, and your shotguns, and you guessed it, machine guns. Yeah. I know that sounds really fun, but I would also add something that I like. Actually, when I first got into guns, something I did, I went to some indoor ranges to rent pistols. Because what I really wanted to do was to make sure that the pistol that I picked, which was just so happened to be my first centerfire firearm, was a pistol. It was the SIG P226. So it was my first centerfire firearm I ever bought. I wanted to make sure, you know, they all fit my hand there and stuff. You know, so I shot a bunch of them. I shot the Glocks, the Berettas, the SIGs, the HKs, and the SIG P226. For some reason, that was the one I kept going back to. It's the one I shot the best. It's the one I liked the most. And it's the one I ended up buying. And that doesn't mean that you're going to pick that gun or that you're going to pick any gun. But if you do, pick a carry pistol, you need to make sure that it's one that will be practiced with regularly, that you do enjoy shooting and trying before you buy can be really great. So Top Gun Range is the place where you can do that. You can check them out. Check out their firearm rental inventory on their website at topgunrange.com. You can also find them on Instagram at Top Gun Range. Okay. And as always, the J Situation Podcast is brought to you by High End Armament Technology, a little bit different dealer here. They're a dealer of, you guessed it, high-end arms and accessories. These guys are kind of the top level here. They have a pretty long tenure in the machine gun and the NFA game, as well as significant expertise in both the procurement and operation of night vision, thermal optics, and infrared sighting systems. So this is kind of like the Skunk Works dealer. You go to buy stuff you can't usually find. The guy's name is Robert. He's awesome. He and his crew have decades of experience and actual knowledge of the gear. So if there's something you're trying to find and you can't find it, if you're looking to get into the night vision game, the thermal game, transferable machine gun game, they are a great resource for you. Check them out at highendarms.com, Instagram at highendarms, and of course Facebook High End Arms. Okay, Tell them Jay sent you. And as always, we're brought to you by Silencer Shop. You've heard of those guys. You can use their kiosk, you can do your fingerprints and photos electronically. And in turn, you cut down on errors, you simplify your silencer purchasing process, you get a money back guarantee. It's great. No transfer fees, no paperwork errors. Just you and your silencer with no drama. It truly is. Silencer ownership simplified. And get the coupon codes in the show notes there on the website, pewscience.com/podcast. You can click on True Shot Gun Club out of Arizona to buy ammo. If you join their frequent buyer program with the code word PewScience, you get $20 off that program. Gives you free shipping the whole year. And then when you go like a lunatic and buy 6,000 magazines from Magpul at magpul.com, go ahead and use the code PSTEN to save $10 off that tremendous order you're making. And lastly, and always most importantly, this podcast is brought to you now and forever by PewScience, pushing the silencer industry forward one test at a time. Visit pewscience.com for the suppression rating. It is the simplest and the most accurate hearing safe rating for your suppressed small arms, used not only by America, but our allies overseas are starting to use it too, which is really great. And it is based on true human sound perception of the entire gunshot from before combustion takes place all the way until all the combustion is gone. PewScience is the home of the silencer sound standard. 7 sections. The most in-depth and accurate silencer data and analysis in the entire world. For you. That's right. Check it out on pewscience.com. And you can support this podcast. You can support PewScience and all the testing that I do for you by joining with a membership at pewscience.com if you like. It would help. And if you don't want that, you can do the donate thing on the review page of the podcast page. There's a donate button. You can give a little bit, give a lot of it, or you can give nothing at all. And speaking of nothing at all, something that doesn't cost you anything is giving the podcast a good rating on Spotify or iTunes. That's just doing me a solid, and you're doing yourself a solid. Because why? Well, you're normalizing suppressed small arms, of course. Every time you spread the word, that's what that does. Okay. Like I said, I added a topic today at the last minute, so I have 4 topics for you today. Topic 1, the YouTube firearms policy. And you. Does it matter? It might, yeah. And possibly it might matter more than you think. Let's talk about it. There's a lot to say. Topic 2, PewScience SCAR project update number 9. The KNS DiSCARder. Yes. Yes, quite. DiSCARder. I have it in my hand. It's very nice. Very, very well machined. The KNS adjustable gas regulator for the FN SCAR. That's what that is. And how does it compare to the Mototech SCARbrator? Well, I don't know 100% yet, but I know a little bit. And so I'll give my initial thoughts today. And then topic 3, new sound signature review this week. This week? Yeah, this week. That's right. We'll kick off February with something a little different. Get back into something we need to address and kind of sweep out the data pedigree in a regime that we need to expand. So I'm excited about that. And then topic 4, a quick update on some of the requested testing from PewScience members, clients, and the public. Did a couple of questions for you last episode. Got some good feedback. Just wanted to let you guys know that I heard you. Barrel lengths and shooting environment matter. I think that'll be a theme you'll see going forward. So thank you for all your support. It does help it helps me to be able to continue this type of research. Okay, this research is only possible through your help. So thank you. Okay, and I think it's also helping create a space and opportunities for new companies to thrive, which we're seeing more of every day. And that is encouraging on a large scale. Okay, let's move into topic 1 at a time of 9 minutes and 8 seconds. Man, I tell you what, I thought I was going to kick off this week and get this done early, but man, I don't know if it's the cold today just made things move slower, but it's been a long day and we have a lot to talk about, so this is going to be interesting. 1 second. Okay, even that intro was exhausting. Topic 1, the YouTube firearms policy and you. Does it matter? It might matter. Could. Maybe. Probably. Maybe. Maybe to you. Maybe not. Probably does, though. Typically, I don't weigh in on subjects in the firearm space unless I feel I have something to contribute. There's so much stuff out there. There are plenty of folks speaking about certain legal and regulatory issues, as well as political issues, frankly. And I think I've made my overall philosophical stance on guns pretty well known. I'm fairly hardline. I'm a fairly hardline supporter of civilian-owned armament. And with regard to restrictions, the most extreme thought experiment I've approached is that of WMD. Weapons of mass destruction, like nuclear, chem, bio, things like that. I do think regulation is important for those type of things because I don't see a way that those type of armament fall into a militia type role typically. When you really start thinking pragmatically about what you're doing with a nuclear weapon or a chemical weapon or a biological weapon, I'm not saying we need to get rid of those things, but I am saying that, I'm not really selling those at Walmart. You feel me? And, some people might disagree with me. And hey, we're all free to our opinions. I think those are more nation state type of armament. And that's not really a hill I'm willing to die on right now, defending your right to own a tactical nuke. It's just not a hill I'm willing to die on right now. Frankly, that's a thought experiment I've done fleetingly. I haven't really dug my heels in to give that a treatise or thesis. I'm not ready to defend a thesis on that. Okay, so if you want to argue with me, hey, shoot me an email. If you have contrary opinion to that, and I'll read anything, frankly. I'm all for a great discussion, but, So basically, in summary, yeah, I think you should have a rocket launcher. I think they're cool. Now you get into anthrax, You start sending rice into people. It's like, well, hold on there, bucko. Okay. So all that being said, I'm a strong proponent of firearm ownership, and use, and education. Full stop. Okay. I'm a proponent of firearm ownership, use, and education. Full stop. All right. So just to fill you folks in, for those of you who may not know what's going on, an organization called YouTube, which is owned by the Google. They host a lot of videos. You're probably familiar with them. You may have heard of them. Recently, some publishers who have uploaded videos with firearm content and firearm subject matter have had their videos removed from the platform. And furthermore, their channels have been subjected to warnings or violations or strikes or removals and things like this. Okay, so there are a few types. There's a few types of actions YouTube has administratively taken against these channels and their content. Okay, but that's really not what I like to discuss. That's more programmatic. Okay, so what I would like to discuss today is how it's different now, maybe, and how it may be different going forward. Okay, and why any of this matters in the big picture. Okay, because this is happening on a scale now that it got my attention. You got to keep in mind, I don't use YouTube to publish, right? Pew Science does not use YouTube actively for many reasons. We can talk about that later. But that if Pew Science, if Jay, if I'm talking about YouTube, something's going on with YouTube. Okay. So there's a lot to talk about and address. I think there is. And because how do I say that? I think the reason why there's a lot to talk about and address is because of the amount of context you need to be able to think critically about this. There's a lot to think. There's a lot to know. And so I thought about how I was going to approach this topic. And so I'm going to try to do it in the only way I know how to do and go step by step. And if we go and we hit a dead end, I'm sorry. But come with me, take my hand. We'll walk through the rabbit hole of confusion, and we'll learn together, okay? Okay. So let's, hey, this could crash and burn, or it could be awesome. At the very least, you're going to learn something. So first thing, he's crazy. First thing is the YouTube firearms policy. What is it? All right. So the kind of interesting part about this is that the policy's not very long, which is good because it makes it easy to read. All right. And I checked this before I started recording this. I just wanted to see because I wanted to know, is this something I'm going to be able to read to my listeners? And I think it is, and I think we should do it. I can read pretty fast too. So, open a browser window here. Make it a little bigger. So, and if you can do this at home if you like. The way I got to it is I just Googled YouTube firearm policy. And what it does, excuse me, one second. And what that does when you find your top result on Google, in fact, let me double check that. Is it the top result? It sure is. If you Google YouTube firearm policy, the top result, it's going to point you to support.google.com. And when you click on that link, you're basically in the YouTube help system. And so what it's going to do, it's going to pull up, it's going to have a video, and you can watch that video if you want. It's hilarious if you watch it. It's like, just don't do it without your blood pressure medication. But then it goes on, and it has a note at the top, and I'll read that really quick. So let's see. It says, "The safety of our creators, viewers, and partners is our highest priority. We look to each of you to help us protect this unique and vibrant community. It's important you understand our community guidelines and the role they play in our shared responsibility to keep YouTube safe. Take the time to carefully read the policy below." That part's bolded that I just read. "You can also check out this page for a full list of our guidelines." And of course, they have this page, which is it's a hyperlink. And if you click on that, you get to learn about all the things you can't do on YouTube, which is really, hey, if you're bored, grab a beer and read it. So this is that thing I just read, that paragraph about safety, which is their highest priority, is at the top of the page, right under the video. So that's like pretty highlighted. Okay, so now let me read you the policy. It's important. Okay, it says, content intended to sell firearms, instruct viewers on how to make firearms, ammunition, and certain accessories, or instruct viewers on how to install those accessories is not allowed on YouTube. Okay, it says YouTube shouldn't be allowed. YouTube shouldn't be used as a platform to sell firearms or accessories noted below. YouTube also doesn't allow live streams that show someone holding, handling, or transporting a firearm. It's wild, right? So, it's interesting. And because it doesn't even read like a legal document. It's not like a bunch of legalese. They just have three main sections now. They have a section that says what this means for you. Then they have something that says examples. And then they have something that says what happens if your content violates the policy. It's interesting, right? So under what this means for you, it says if you're posting content, don't post content on YouTube if the purpose is to do one or more of the following. And it gives a list. It says, don't sell firearms or certain firearm accessories through direct sales, like private sales by individuals or anything, or link to sites that sell them. And those accessories may include accessories that enable a firearm to simulate automatic fire, accessories that convert a firearm to automatic fire, such as a bump stock, Gatling trigger, drop-in autoseer, conversion kit, high-capacity magazines or belts carrying more than 30 rounds. That's a weird number to pick, right? Don't post content that provides instructions on manufacturing any of the following: firearms, ammunition, high-capacity magazines, homemade silencers or suppressors, accessories that enable a firearm to simulate automatic fire, accessories that convert a firearm to automatic fire, such as bump stocks, Gatling triggers, drop-in autoseers, or conversion kits. So not only can you not sell those, you can't even tell people how to make them. Okay, fair enough. Provide instructions on how to convert a firearm to automatic or simulated automatic firing. So that means don't even show people how to shoot fast. Got it. Provide instructions on how to install the above-mentioned accessories or modifications. So you can't tell anyone how to install anything that's talked about on this list. And guess what they say at the very end of the list? Right after that, they say, please note, this is not a complete list. That's right. That's right. They gave themselves the biggest out of the day, didn't they? Please note, this is not a complete list. Okay. Cool. And then there's a list of examples, and they're like, don't do this. And this is what's bad. Don't finish a lower receiver. Don't make a silencer out of a flashlight. Don't live stream holding a gun. They're very simple cookie cutter examples they picked, right? And then they say, well, these are just examples. don't post content if you think it might violate the policy. They're like, be careful. They're basically saying, hey, be careful. We're warning you. Okay, cool. So there's that part. And then finally it says, well, what happens if you violate it? Well, then they tell you, well, there's a graduated scale of discipline, in which case we will excommunicate you forever. Okay, cool. So that's the YouTube firearms policy. Pretty short. How long did that take to talk about? I started the topic at, 9 minutes in? We're 20 minutes in? Okay, took 10 minutes. It took 10 minutes to explain how that works. Okay, I don't know if that's good or bad. One second. So, your takeaway, and pause this, go read that and come back if you want. Because I know I went through it fast, but I gave you the gist. Because it doesn't really matter. Like, the details don't matter as much as you think. Okay, so there's that. So right away, what do you notice? Assuming you pause this or you listen to me and you got it all. Right away, what did you notice? Well, you see that they leave it open. Okay, they're giving themselves room. Okay, cool. The second thing you can see is the list has a theme, right? It has a theme. And that theme, when you look at that list, and you really look at it, it has, what is it? Simulate automatic fire, magazines more than 30 rounds, the word high capacity magazine. It talks about bump stocks, In the examples, it talks about finishing a lower receiver. These are all things that are in the news, right? So right away, this theme, it has to do with items that have been politicized. Because if you looked at this factually, you would see that, well, this is nonsensical. So you can't look at it like that, because it's not. Okay? Because if it was factual and like based on logic, it's different. That's a different argument. Okay, so you need to understand. So right away, let me recap. Right away, you can see they leave it open, so that they're giving themselves wiggle room. Second thing is, it's a politicized list. Okay, cool. Now, third thing, right away, you can see there's an inherent bias to the rules. There's a bias, an innate bias. What does that mean? It means there's a bias inherent to the set of rules. Okay, and you can tell that it's not something you're going to be able to argue. You can't argue this objectively. Whether you agree or disagree with any of the rules in here, it doesn't matter, and you're not going to convince whoever wrote them to change them or that, because they're not based on logic. Okay, cool. So the rules that are not shown are in fact designed to enact the same agenda they have and enforced by the other rules. So even if, because they're giving you rules and they're not giving you the whole list of rules. All right. So no matter what, the game's rigged. It's rigged. It's rigged from the start. Okay, and you got to keep. You don't read this like a legal document that's giving you rights or something. This is a private company's website. Okay, I really need you to understand that. So, all that being said about whether you agree, disagree, them giving themselves wiggle room, them creating this universe they're living in here, the overarching theme from their entire page on firearm policy is safety. That's the whole thing. That's where the river runs to, the tributary flows into. All right. Okay, so that's the first thing, the firearm policy. I wanted to kind of get you familiar with it, give you my thoughts on it, and just break it down to brass tacks and what it is. Now, that's the first piece of context I want you guys to have. I think you should probably have when you think about this. So here's my second point of context. You now see, if you're a creator person, you're a YouTube creator, you make the videos there and you put them on the YouTube. If you're a creator person that makes videos, you see that the people who let you come into their house and put your video on the TV don't like what you're filming. They don't like it. And it's their house and it's their TV. So you're like, what are you talking about, Jay? No, it's not. No. You did. You went into YouTube's house and you put a tape in their VCR and you sat down on the couch next to them. I know that everyone listening thinks that it's your computer or your phone or your TV that you're using to watch YouTube. But as soon as you watch YouTube, you're watching YouTube's TV. YouTube's content. It's not your content. It's not Grand Thumb's content. No, it's YouTube's. They own it, dude. They own the pipe. They own the data bank, dude. The database, the ground on the part of the earth where you pick the flowers of video. You gave them permission to control your video. That's their video now, and now they're using that permission. You're playing it on their VCR, and they own the plug to the wall with the VCRs running. Like, that's it. I don't care what the copyright agreement says. I don't care. I don't care what that says. It's not true, because what matters? They can turn it off whenever they want. What does that mean? They own it. Right? You know what I mean? Like, yeah, you own it in that you can have a copyright claim made. So that's like owning a patent. Oh, okay, cool. You get to defend a patent in court. Good job. Now you have to pay a lawyer. You see? So be careful. Okay? I really want you to understand what you're doing with YouTube if you're uploading video to it. Okay, so that's the second thing. The third thing, what are people using this for? What are people using YouTube for? I was curious about it. I was thinking. I was like, I thought about how to ask this question because I really wanted to know. Because there's a lot of ways to ask it, right? So, depending on how you ask it, you'll get a lot of different answers. And everyone answering has an agenda, right? Everyone has an agenda, and that agenda is influenced by everyone's individual biases, right? It's individual by your own personal bias. It's individual. It's influenced by your thoughts. It's influenced by the proclivities you may have. So what did I do? Well, I did an Instagram poll, right? I use those every once in a while, and I find them to be pretty useful. So let's look at the latest stats from the poll from yesterday. I think, you know what? I think I must have just posted the recap of that. And so what I did is I asked in a poll, I said, where have you learned the most about firearm safety? It's a weird question to ask, right? Well, but until you consider the answer choices I gave in the poll. The four choices I gave people to answer, they could say firearm instruction manual, YouTube, firearm instructor or trainer, friend or family member. Okay, so again, I asked, where have you learned the most about firearm safety? Firearm instruction manual, YouTube, firearm instructor or trainer, friend or family member. Okay, so four choices. Pretty simple. Pretty much hits most of the popular possibilities depending on your age, demographic, and situation. So now you got to realize polls are only useful okay. Let me start that over. Polls are useful, but you need to understand their limitations. Okay, so one of the limitations of polls is that they give you information about a particular sample of people. Okay, so the people who voted in this poll do fit a certain demographic or certain slices of certain demographics, and they may not represent the entire public worldwide. Okay, but they by and large use firearms or are interested in firearms. That you can be sure. Okay, so keep that in mind. But hey, polls are cool. You just got to understand the limitations. If you understand that, fine. Now, let's talk about the results. Results of the poll. And as far as sample size, it was like a couple thousand people. Okay, 1% of people said they learned the most about firearm safety from a firearm instruction manual. 1%. 1% of people polled. Okay. 12% said that they learned it from an instructor or a trainer. Kind of wild. Okay. 31% said they learned about firearm safety mostly from a friend or family member. Okay. That's not surprising. But the remaining 56%, the majority said YouTube. 56%. The majority of people polled. Interesting, right? Now, I didn't grow up with YouTube. I didn't grow up with the internet, but I do remember when YouTube launched, and I do remember when Google bought YouTube because they saw how valuable it would be to have a video platform as bandwidth and internet speed started to ramp up. I mean, you got to keep in mind, if you were, a lot of you were around back then, you remember the only reason why YouTube wasn't super popular when we were young was because we didn't have the bandwidth. You couldn't use it. How are you going to stream a video? You weren't doing it on your phones because the phones couldn't do that anyway. I mean, you just didn't, the technology of information distribution hadn't caught up to our ideas yet. Like, no one had like fat internet pipes anywhere. I mean, maybe like universities, but we just didn't have. We were on like modems, like dial-up. So there was like, remember Real Player? wait for it to buffer. Yeah, that was how we kind of tried to watch video, back then. So YouTube, I didn't grow up with it. So YouTube it's new, newer, right? So it's interesting, but now I see that if 56% of people polled, they get their firearm safety information from YouTube. I'm like, dang, man, that's huge. It's a lot of people, And so I asked, you got to keep in mind the question of this poll. I asked people how they learned about firearm safety. That was the question I asked. I didn't define what that was. I just asked the question. I was like, how do you most often learn about firearm safety? What is the way you use the most? And so what's firearm safety? Well, most people would define that as how not to hurt yourself or people you shouldn't hurt with a firearm, right? Like, don't point a gun at anything you're not willing to destroy. Isn't that like one of the main rules of firearm safety, right? Like, don't like point a loaded gun at your face or an unloaded gun at your face. Don't point a loaded gun at someone else's face or an unloaded gun at someone else's face unless you're trying to kill them, right? That's like pretty simple. It's like if you follow that rule, you're doing pretty good if you follow that rule, right? Okay, cool. So let's go back. Let's go back to the YouTube firearm policy page, right? We were just there. Let's go back. Let's read the note again at the very top. The one that's in the little box with a light bulb indicating that it's important. The safety of our creators, viewers, and partners is our highest priority. We look to each of you to help us protect this unique and vibrant community. It is important you understand our community guidelines and the role they play in our shared responsibility to keep YouTube safe. Take the time to carefully read the policy below. You can also check out this page for a full list of our guidelines. So they're like, man, our highest priority is the safety of our creators, viewers, and partners. So safety is their number one concern, they're saying. Okay, cool. All right. So turns out, now that you've read that, firearm owners use a method to learn about safety, and the people who are in charge of that method don't see it that way. Turns out. Yeah. So you got to ask yourself, what's the magnitude of the implication? What's the implication of this? Right? I mean, really, this is just me talking. This is literally me giving you a thought experiment. It's cool, right? How many people are using YouTube, and how many people are watching gun content, and how does that compare to the population of the United States? So let's look. I pulled some numbers. Okay? Yeah, I prepared a little bit for this. By the numbers, I picked 8 YouTube channels I knew about, either because I've met the people, I've heard of them. Number 1, Grantham, 2.75 million subscribers. Number 2, Brandon Herrera, 2.36 million. Demolition Ranch, 11.2 million subscribers. Donut Operator, 3.91. Kentucky Ballistics, 3.16. Military Arms Channel, 1.31. Forgotten Weapons, 2.5. T-Rex Arms, 1.35 million subscribers. This isn't views. This is just subscribers. The views of their videos are even higher. I'm just bear with me. Okay, this is just subscribers. So that's 8 people. Am I forgetting some? Absolutely. Are these some of the big ones? Absolutely. That's only 8. They're one could argue they're some of the biggest firearm guys, right? Cool. 8 of them. Add them all up. What is that? That's 28.5 million subscribers. Are we double counting some? Maybe. Don't care. Not the point right now, okay? 28.5 million people subscribe to channels that post exclusively firearms content. Okay? Would you say that's reasonable? Cool. 28.5 million people. Population in the United States? 334 million people, give or take. Okay. So what's 28.5 out of 334? Well, that's 8.5% of the U.S. population if this is all Americans, but forget about it. Forget about whether this is international or national. Just say there's a size of people, there's a population of people that's around 8.5% of the population in the United States that subscribes to 8 YouTube channels about guns. Okay, cool. So add up all the other ones I don't know about or haven't seen or counted here, whatever. So let's bump up the 8.5% to like 10%. Let's use easy round numbers. Let's say 10%. Okay, so let's say roughly, ballpark, the amount of people watching gun stuff on YouTube is at least 10% the size of the U.S. population. Let's just say roughly. Cool. And likely it's likely more. Let's say at the bottom end, we'll table that. We'll say at the bottom end, 10% the size of the U.S. population is getting gun content from YouTube. Okay, cool. Now, you got that? You got that? Now let's do something dangerous. Let's apply the result of the poll in my small sample size. Let's apply that to the results. Okay, so let's say at the bottom end, we have 10% of 334 million people watching this at a minimum. Okay. We just went through those numbers. And let's say the population overlaps with my poll in demographic. So 56% get their firearm safety from that. Okay, so let's do the math. Let's do that rough minimum math. You got 334 million people. What's 10% of that? That's 33.4 million, right? 334 million times 0.1. That's 33.4 million. Okay, now do 33.4 million times 0.56. That's 56% of that. That's 18.7 million people. So let's use round numbers. Let's round it to 20. 20 million people learn about firearm safety from YouTube at a minimum. At a minimum, right? That's minimum. These are all we're dealing with minimums right now. So at a minimum, 20 million people somewhere on the earth are getting their firearm safety education from YouTube. Cool. Okay. So how many gun owners are there in the US? How many gun owners are there? I Googled it. I don't know the exact number, but I Googled it. You know what Pew Research? No, that's not Pew Science, Pew Research. By the way, if you Google like Pew Science, it used to be Pew Research that came first. Now it's me. Took your spot, Pew Research, but I did use your site. Pew Research told me roughly 40% of the U.S. population has a gun in the house. Okay. 40% of the population, that's 134 million people. What's 56% of the gun people? Remember that 56% number from my poll? Apply that to 134. That's 75 million people. So what does that mean? It means the low number we had, the minimum. So between 20 million people And 75 million people in the United States might get their firearm safety information from YouTube. You see what I just did? My lower bound was 20 from before. Now, using Pew Research data that 40% of the population own guns, and we can assume that over half of them get their information from YouTube. That's at the top end. That would be like the most extreme end. That's 56% of 134 million is 75. You have between 20 million people and 75 million people in the United States right now that might get their safety information from YouTube for firearms. Somewhere in there. It's a big margin of error, right? You might be thinking to yourself, well, Jay, your margin of error is so big. It's like, okay. 20 to 75 million. Okay, cool. But it's not 10 people. And it's not 100 people. And it's not 1,000 people. It's not 10,000 people. It's not 100,000 people. And it's not 1 million people. It's in the tens of millions. Whether it's 20 million or 75, it's in the tens of millions of people. That's the order of magnitude. And we're not off by, I can promise you right now, we're not off by an order of magnitude based on the math. At most, we're off by between 20 and 75 million. We're not off by an order of magnitude. We're in the tens of millions. Okay? So, to recap, tens of millions of people are or could be getting firearm safety information from a platform that can and will, at their discretion, not only remove content, but ban the creators of the content for life. Okay? I'm just putting this in perspective for you. I'm putting this in perspective for you. I want you to really understand this. These are numbers, dude. You can talk. Go put your videos on Rumble. Okay, cool. You can talk about that. We can talk about that later. But right now, I want you to understand the numbers. Cool. All right. So that, my friends, that's what people are up against. When you consider the amount of people using the platform, they're not going to eliminate guns from YouTube entirely. That's probably not going to happen. But the ebb and flow of algorithmic and policy enforcement will remain unpredictable for as long as politics influences their policies. I mean, that you probably know. I mean, you saw it when you heard me read their policies. They aren't based on any type of safety issues. That's not safety, guys. They're based on They're based on political policy using safety as a scapegoat. Some of them you can argue. I mean, you can argue there is a safety issue. For example, talking about they say, well, we don't want you to do a homemade silencers, and it's like, well, a lot of people say, oh, well, of course, But yeah, could you kill yourself making that? Yeah, obviously. Could you kill yourself doing a lot of things on YouTube that they show? Well, yeah, that too. So we can get down to the nitty gritty, and we can address some of their points with being a devil's advocate. Maybe I'll say that a little later, but by and large, they're not really concerned about your safety as much as they are as a political agenda, right? I mean that's really what's happening, And if they are genuinely concerned about your safety, they're probably misinformed. Do I think that some of them actually do believe that they are doing the right thing and they are making you safer? I think some people probably do believe that. Now, are they right or wrong? Well, I think sometimes they're probably right, sometimes they're probably wrong. I mean, if you really want to, think about this pragmatically, it's interesting, right? So now you have the picture and you have my opinion. So you look at some of these consequences about different courses of actions, like different, a fork in the road, right? So you say, well, what are the consequences of doing nothing? What if you do nothing about this at all? Like, what if you just don't care? So, I don't care about this. It's not my problem. So, okay, well. On the extreme end, like if all gun content goes away, what would happen? If you lost all gun content on YouTube, well, from the numbers we've just shown, you could lose the potential for safety briefings for tens of millions of people, and you might have a loss of life because of it eventually. would someone misinformation they would have normally been able to access because they use YouTube for the primary information source because of their age or something? And, could they have seen a video where, oh, wow, that guy kept his finger off the trigger and he definitely said to, I'll always remember that. What if they missed that? And I don't know, their dad didn't teach them how to hold the gun right and they didn't read the instruction manual. And, I'm not blaming YouTube for killing that kid. But what I am saying is you might miss an educational opportunity for gun safety for tens of millions of people. So if you multiply 10 million people by the probability that might happen, you could have at least one death. Fair? Fair. Okay. What else could happen? If the gun content goes away or is significantly throttled by more, throttled or more regulated, well, the firearm companies could lose some marketing avenues. Right? Because why is that? Why would firearm companies lose marketing avenues? Well, they can't rely on traditional advertisement as easily as other things, right? It's firearms. It's taboo, political. You can't just advertise for a gun everywhere. That doesn't work. You gotta. That's why they use influencers. You know that, right? People get mad at the influencers, but no, the influencers they form it's a symbiosis. They form a role. They're used to market. They're mannequins for clothes. This is the same thing. I know you don't like to hear that, but and I mean don't disrespect, but brass tacks. So that's what they are. They're holding the guns and talking about them. That way you sell them and stuff. It's just advertising. It's marketing. It's what it is. Now, firearms companies they will need to pivot. That is one remember, I'm asking you, what are the consequences of you doing nothing and this just getting worse? Well, some firearm companies will have to figure that out because they won't be able to advertise as much because there's tens of millions of people that won't see their stuff. And then what else will happen? Well, the influencers, those marketer guys, well, they're going to suffer because they won't get paid to make the videos anymore. And it's real. It's a real consequence. It's a small consequence relative to the other consequences, probably. Much less people are affected by this than the first two things, right? Because there are significantly less influencers than companies. And then people needing safety videos, right? There's less influencers than consumers of the influencers' content. So influencers would be affected, but less than everybody else. If you looked at this in a strictly utilitarian sense of the word, right? So, another thing, there is a large possibility if this were to happen, like if this were to get worse and go and like no more gun content on YouTube, if you did nothing about this and no one cared about it, just went away, there is a possibility that many people will not be educated about firearms at all, right? You have to recognize that that's a possibility, right? That there's going to be a certain percentage of the population that just doesn't get exposed to guns in a way that is responsible, right? Because if a lot of people are getting their information from YouTube, as we, tens of millions of people or whatever, well, what happens when they don't have that outlet and they don't learn about guns and they only learn about guns from movies and in the news, right? What does that do long term? What does that do long term? Well, it could eventually lead to a national security issue, wouldn't it? Like let's speak about I know there's a lot of international listeners to this podcast, and so you can apply this to your country too. I'll apply it to the United States. As more people get their information from videos and videos with good firearm instruction and information stop being available, many people may not have the opportunity to learn about these systems. And what does that do big picture? Well, it makes for an inherently weaker populace in times of war, doesn't it? Depending on your conflict zone. What, you're never exposed to weapons or tactics at all outside of movies, and is that good for generations of people? Yeah, probably not. It's probably not good, right? Yeah. So if you do nothing, I'm not saying that's all that's going to happen. It's all very sad, but I'm not saying it's all going to happen. I'm saying, possible. It's not improbable that all that could happen. So, what happens if you do something, though? And what can you do? Can you do anything? Are you helpless? Well, if you do something, you could help the opposite happen from everything I just postulated, right? You could help tens of millions of people. You could help tens of millions of people get safety briefs for firearm use. You could help firearm companies market to more people and sell guns. You could help a few people not lose their jobs as video creators. You could help educate the future population of the world in armament, thus strengthening our national security indirectly. You could serve your country by helping video content about guns to proliferate, right? I mean, you can make the argument that's true. So how could you help do something, though? And, I was thinking about this. A lot of people argue with me. They disagree. A lot of people disagree with me. I think the only way is to contact YouTube. That's what I think. Yeah, because you can't contact law enforcement. You can't contact a lawmaker about it, or a leader, leadership, politician. You can't. You can only contact the company, the corporation, YouTube and Google. That's all you can do. Remember, what did you do? You came into their living room. You put a tape into their VCR and you hit play and you watched the TV. You sat down on the couch right next to their daughter. You took the remote out of her hand and you're like, no, check this out. We're going to watch this now. They don't have to let you hit play, let alone sit on the couch and eat popcorn, dude. So, look, go let them know how helpful that show is. They're not going to listen to anything else. Remember, they talked about safety on their policy page. Tens of millions of people will be less safe if they don't listen to you. So use that. That's the only option you have. Yeah, and this is so idealistic, right? This argument that I've made, I've weaved this web of like, I can see that it's a little far-fetched, right? But is it? If you want to look at this with a little bit of idealism, is it that far-fetched? Because I mixed idealism with pragmatism. It is pragmatic when you think about the number game, right? The numbers game. You could think about this like, okay, I'll give you some final thoughts to think about. So do I think there's a political solution? No, not really. For as long as gun control narrative lasts in political culture in the country and the world, YouTube's going to parrot it. I think. Now, could organizations lobby YouTube and tip the political scales internally at YouTube? Several tech insiders, by the way, several people that work at Google and work at YouTube have spoken with me on social media. Several of them have told me no. Several of those people have told me that organizations lobbying YouTube will do nothing. Now, others have told me it's very complicated and that gun content creators should be patient. So I actually can't say anything more about that just because the individuals that spoke with me, what does the media say? Spoke on condition of anonymity to protect their identities. Yeah, no, seriously, I'm not going to blow up someone's spot. But yeah, I think gun creators might be okay in the future. Maybe they won't. I don't know. We actually don't know, right? So, I mean, a political solution. I think no. I think there's a situation or a scenario you have to run, and you have to ask yourself. Let's say the optimism of the wait and see approach is wrong. Right? Do you think you can reason with YouTube publicly? I think maybe so. I think maybe you could reason with YouTube publicly on platforms in which they are forced to engage and maybe forced to recognize genuine criticism. I think that's a maybe. I think maybe Twitter could help with that. Maybe I think enough public attention gets placed on that platform in Twitter. I think maybe if enough noise is made, I think they pay attention. I think so. I mean, this is just me saying. I think a lot of people disagree with me. I don't disagree. I've seen things go viral on Twitter and in the media that are way less important than this. We just went by the numbers, guys. There's tens of millions of people using this for firearm safety. Not how to shoot. That's even more people. I'm talking about safety. Okay, yeah. If this is a real safety issue, like it clearly is, just look at the numbers. It is. I mean, you don't have to, and you might be screaming, well, no, that's not true because if they don't get the firearm safety information from YouTube, they'll just get it somewhere else. It's like maybe they might. Or maybe you don't understand the younger generation that only uses YouTube. I've straight up seen someone, like a grown adult, meaning they're in college, they're over 18 years old. I've seen a grown adult refuse to learn how to do a certain type of math problem from a book and tell me they needed to go to YouTube and find a video. And they were too impatient to learn it from the book. And when I showed them, no, look, the book, you could do it right. They completely discounted it, and they would not stop searching for the videos instead. They were that stubborn when presented with the information in front of them on a written page. 20 years ago, if I said that to you, you would have called me crazy. And I bet you right now, a lot of you are nodding your heads like that's exactly how people are now. And if you're older like me, it makes me a little sad. But at the same time, hey, technology evolves, culture evolves, humans evolve. These little micro evolutions. So yeah, think about that. All right. Now, here's another thing to think about. Do I think creators should diversify? Absolutely. I said this to a guy. I said this to a couple of guys. I said, never let anyone else own your stuff but you, man. You work hard. I see how hard these people work. Don't give it to someone else. You give your product to someone for free, which is what YouTube creators do. It's a weird word, but those creators, they give control of their videos to YouTube for free. They're not charging YouTube to host the videos. Isn't that weird? YouTube is like, hey, buddy, we'll give you this free platform. You can put all the videos you want on it for free. Yeah, come on. For free. What's the catch? Well, they own you. That's the catch. Okay? You have given that entity control over you, and there is nothing you can do about it. Okay? And sure, YouTube's a shortcut when you think about it, right? It's easy. It's easy to use an existing platform to build a following, isn't it? Now, I'm not saying, look, now don't get me wrong. I'm not saying making a big YouTube channel is easy. That's not what I said. No, what I'm saying is YouTube exists. So if you make a good YouTube channel, you have growth potential that's large compared to if you just made a website one day. If you just woke up one day and was like, I'm going to make a website. It's a little different than starting a YouTube channel, right? Trust me, I know. I've done this. Okay, I can speak from experience. I have experience building an entire platform and ecosystem from nothing. From nothing. It takes years. You've seen me do it. If you listen to this podcast from the beginning, you've seen me do it. So what's my vote? Diversify. That's my vote. You do it in your investments. Why not do it in your time investment? Okay, so if you're a YouTube creator right now, upload all of your videos to a minimum of 2 other platforms, and then go investigate the cost of self-hosting your videos. Go build a website if you haven't yet. Then link to your hosted videos and start marketing your website. Okay, if you want to deliver videos to the people, and if that's really what you want to do, if your purpose is delivering videos to the people, being a creator of videos to be delivered to the people, and that's your purpose, that's what you want to do, well, you doing it yourself should be long-term your goal. That if you want to maintain ownership, of the work you create, your goal should be to exist autonomously. And if you don't, and you're okay with someone else owning your life, your creation, then just use YouTube and roll the dice. I'm not your dad, right? It's your choice. It's always been your choice. But, it's not a public utility. It's a private company, and they got really good at streaming video to the world. And the size of the entity does not dictate its laws and regulations, and that's not going to change. So you can't call it, you say, oh, it's too big. Now it's a public utility. No, it's a private company. Sorry. Not going to change. Not going to change. They have too much money and too much power. They're not going to give that up. All right? It's a pipe dream. Never going to change. So whatever they want to do, they're going to do. I'm not saying they're not going to change their mind and let more firearm stuff happen. They could, but they could also not. All right? So don't be surprised. Now, I'm going to say something else. I talked about earlier. I said I was going to give like a devil's advocate position on this. I'm going to be very careful how I say this, but use the numbers I gave and think about this. If tens of millions of people are getting firearm safety from YouTube, pretend that's true. Okay. If tens of millions of people are getting firearm safety from YouTube, and YouTube ends up not being regulated at all. Okay, so this is, again, don't shoot me. Don't shoot the messenger. This is me giving you a thought experiment. Don't get mad. I'm giving you the devil's advocate position. If tens of millions of people are getting firearm safety from YouTube and YouTube ends up not being regulated at all, and YouTube lets you do whatever you want. Remember, tens of millions of people are getting firearm safety information from YouTube. That's just one thing they're getting. Now imagine YouTube had no restrictions on what they showed. Okay? This is like TV. Let's say it's just, there's no FCC and it's like, yeah, put whatever you want on this thing. Let's say you do that and then people get bad information and they get hurt. Whether that bad information is how to handle a firearm or how to use a silencer or which firearm blows up or doesn't blow up or which silencer protects your ears better or doesn't, whatever. How does all of that impact public safety? And does it matter? I just said it's not a public utility. So, okay, it's not a public utility. Say it's not regulated at all. And so the people owning this private company ends up saying, you know what? You're right, guys. We were wrong. You were right. You can show whatever you want on our platform, from a beheading video to an instruction on how to make a tactical nuclear weapon to a rocket launcher to homemade firearms to sexually explicit content. You know what? You can have anything on this platform you want. Snuff films, 2 girls, 1 cup, anything you want. You're there. No problem. We're here for you. We're YouTube. We're all inclusive. It's 2023. We've changed our minds. Does that impact public safety? And does it matter? I don't know. That's my devil's advocate position. I don't know. What are you, theoretical libertarian? Are you, you know what I mean? Like, what's your, are you an anarchist? Are you really? You Republican, you Democrat? What are you? Do you think for yourself? Okay, forget your party affiliation. I'm just saying, like, these are things that people think about, and somebody somewhere makes the call on what's okay and what's not. Either that's you at home, and the buck stops with you and your family, or the buck stops before it gets to you because the information doesn't get to you, and everywhere in between, right? Who's the gatekeeper for your mind and your children's minds? Okay. So yeah, that's what I think about YouTube. I I hope that gives you some ideas of what you can do to either help or not, or get into this or not. You don't know. I don't care what you do, really. Either way, now you know what I know, and I think this will help at least one new creator out there, someone listening out there. I hope all this stuff I said, it's not meant to tell you to do anything. It's meant to give you thought nuggets. I call them thought nuggets. A thought nugget is something you plant in your brain and it grows, causes more brain wrinkles and idea propagation. It's almost like an accelerant. It's like a catalyst. Okay? I think it's going to help at least one new creator out there choose the right path for them, or whatever that path that may be. Or it may convince you to never do YouTube ever. And that could be great for you, or it could be horrible. That's up to you. Okay? It's free choice. Now, I did have a conversation with a silencer company this evening. And we were thinking, I said, where are all the public statements from the gun companies in outrage of this? You know what I mean? Like, shouldn't they be very upset that the influencers marketing for them all these years are getting attacked? And some of them, remember that Kit Badger guy? Kit Badger, he's this like really low key, pretty wholesome video publisher who does stuff in the mountains with his kids and guns and stuff. They not only did they remove his videos, they removed his whole channel. He's like such a nice person. So all those companies that he's like helped and benefited from all his videos, what are they doing? I'm not. That's not it's more like a rhetorical question. Like, I don't know what they're doing. Are they helping him? Are they giving him money to like compensate him for not having money from his YouTube channel anymore? Are they calling YouTube to help him get his channel back and get his job back? I don't know. Right? Maybe they are. Maybe they're not. I don't know. Maybe they know something. Maybe they know something we don't know. I'm just asking. It's interesting, right? It's like I probably don't think so. I don't think they are. I don't think that if someone on YouTube loses their channel, I don't think the advertisers that use that guy are giving him a job, right? The firearm companies that using him as an advertisement. I did so. What did I do? I did another poll. I did another poll today. I said, "This is fun. I just want to see what people think." I said, I asked if firearm companies should lobby YouTube. I was like, given what you know about the results of the 56% of people who are getting firearm safety from YouTube, I said, well, should firearm companies lobby YouTube? And that wasn't meant to like say that my opinion is they should. I was just a question. But so far, let's look real time on the podcast. All right, I'm gonna open my Instagram. I can go to my stories that are going. Oh, okay, that's a lot of notifications. All right, not answering those DMs. Sorry. Okay, so right now, about around 1,000 people so far. I just put the poll up. 91% of people say yes. They want firearm companies to lobby YouTube. So look, I don't know that. I don't know that poll gives a good scientific conclusion. And, most of the people that follow me, probably consumers. Well, there are some companies, they're probably, a lot of them not going to vote because they don't want to be found out what they think, which is fine. But what does that mean? That a lot of people probably think the firearm companies should do something. Now, whether or not that doing something is lobbying, well, I don't know. But I think the sentiment is, well, the firearm companies should do something about this. Okay. Again, to be clear, I believe that the overwhelming opinion of the public is that, yes, firearm companies should do something about this. If you are pro-gun and pro-Second Amendment, it is likely that your opinion is that firearm companies could help or should help. Okay, the unscientific Instagram poll says 90%. So I'm going to say it's likely that, and it's not 100%, but it's likely that you think the firearm companies could do something. I don't know that they are. I guess it depends on your definition of trickle down, right? It's like, well, by donating to like a lobbying organization or a legal organization, NRA, Firearms Policy Coalition, Gun Owners of America, by donating to those companies, or, well, you call them companies, you get in trouble. Those organizations, I call them companies because they say they're a lot of them say they're nonprofits, but they're they pay people. And so you got to ask yourself what really the definition of a nonprofit is. Those guys, they have really high salaries. So, you ask these guys, you say, well, is your strategy to affect political change and legal change, and therefore YouTube would be forced to give an outlet for creators to yada 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 yada, free speech, blah blah blah. Probably not. It's a private company, so maybe not. But you think about this. So I was talking to this sponsor company. They were saying, well, how come? Why don't the firearm companies just make their own separate YouTube? Just run it. Because if you end up lobbying for YouTube, what happens when a new leader gets in and the lobby fails, or the political winds shift more, or something happens? You're still at their mercy, just like the creators are at mercy of hosting the videos on YouTube. You're at the mercy of policy, quid pro quo and stuff. So why not just make your own gun tube, right? They tried that with Full 30. They're trying with Rumble, things like that. It's got to be supported. If it's not supported by large outlets, then it'll die, and it just won't have the reach that YouTube does. So, and it may never anyway, because the purpose of YouTube is to expose the most amount of people possible to something. Again, most people get into guns now from YouTube. 56% of people are getting their safety information for guns from YouTube. That means that there are people who are not familiar with guns yet, and they're getting familiar with guns from YouTube. Okay. Run all the numbers and the timelines. All right, think about it. Do what I did. If you get different numbers, let me know. I'd be interested to hear your thoughts. Okay, let's move into topic 2 at a time of 1 hour, 12 minutes, and 24 seconds. Okay. That was a long talk, but I think I hit it all that I wanted to hit, at least. I'm sure I missed something. Okay, topic 2, Pew Science SCAR Project Update number 9. It's been a minute, hasn't it? The KNS DiSCARder, the KNS adjustable gas regulator for the FN SCAR. How does it compare to the Mototech Scarburator? I'll give you some initial thoughts. So what I have in front of me, my Scarburator is still in my SCAR. That's still on the gun rack right now. I actually went and checked it out before I started recording. I noticed that my Scarburator is corroded on the knob a little bit. Some surface rust. I don't know if that's because I don't remember. I'm almost certain I didn't oil it. I haven't even cleaned my SCAR. A couple thousand rounds through it. Yeah, it's just a little bit rusty there. I'm sure it works fine. This is cosmetic on the outside of the knob. If you remember correctly, that Scarburator I had to remove the KDG rail to be able to install the Scarburator. Anyway, so I have that on there for previous discussions about the Scarburator. On this podcast, you can click on the SCAR project or the SCAR metadata tag. I think that's what I did, SCAR metadata tag, and that'll take you to all the different SCAR project updates. So this is update number 9. Because this is a last minute addition to this episode, I didn't prepare a lot for it on this topic. And I'm going to tell you right now, I only have about 15 minutes with the KNS part. One second. And I just got it in the mail today. And shout out to KNS. It's another Texas company. doing great things. You probably know who they are. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to walk you through my thoughts on it. I have it in my hands here. I'm going to do it live on the podcast in real time right now. I'll just do it from memory. And I'm going to tell you right now, when I pick up this part, this KNS part, it does feel high quality. It seems to be machined very well. It has some key differences from the SCARburator that's installed on the gun, installed on my gun right now. And so what I've done is I have left on my desk here is my stock SCAR gas regulator from the 13-inch barrel that I was using. And I have it sitting here next to the KNS system. And again, the Mototech SCARburator is sitting on the gun. So the KNS DiSCARder shares some similarities with the stock SCAR gas regulator. If you'll remember, the stock SCAR gas regulator has two settings. When you have the knob handle thing pointing directly up at 12 o'clock, what it's doing is it is letting a certain amount of gas into the piston from the barrel gas port and venting a certain amount out of the front of the regulator. When you turn the knob to, I guess, if you're firing the gun, if you're operating the weapon, and you turn the knob clockwise, what that does is it maintains the same gas ingress. So in other words, the same amount of gas is coming from the barrel into the piston assembly, but you are venting. You add some venting, so you vent some more gas to atmosphere. So the net result is that the duration of pressure pulse acting upon the piston is reduced. The area under the pressure time curve in that system is reduced. Therefore, what is the area under the pressure time curve? The impulse. The impulse is reduced. Therefore, it's less energy translated into the piston. Okay. So that's the normal stock gas regulator of a SCAR. It has two positions, which is really great. And that's why some people call the vented setting the suppressed setting. What I like to call is the vented setting the normal setting. And when you put it on the 12 o'clock and it doesn't vent as much, I like to call that the adverse setting. And that's how I tune my SCAR with the different gas adjustment screws. Okay, if I was just using the stock knob. Now, the SCARburator that's on my gun, it does something a little different than the stock regulator. What it does is it gives you 10 different settings for orifice ingress with a single vent setting. So it takes away the more vented mode from the stock block and gives you 10 settings of gas orifice ingress, so that you don't have to change your gas jets because you have basically 10 gas jets in one. So in simple terms, the SCARburator can be described as a gas jet shortcut with 10 settings that provides you one vent setting in totality. Got it? Okay. Now, the KNS DiSCARder. This is brand new. KNS literally sent it to me. They actually reached out to me on Instagram. I did not reach out to them. They were like, hey, would you like to evaluate this? And I was like, okay, awesome. Nice people. Very cool. So they sent me one. Check the mail today. It happened to be in the mailbox. Here we are. So I'm looking at it. And before they sent it to me, I asked them, I was like, wait a minute. I was like, well, what are you doing? Are you venting it? Are you restricting it? Like, what are you doing? And they sent me a little annotated a picture with an arrow, and they're like, the vent area is the same, but the vent area is fixed, but there's like you vary the vent opening with the knob. And I was like, and I didn't understand that at all. When I first saw it, like what they showed me on the picture, I was like, okay, that doesn't make any sense to me. And that's not a knock on them. It was an Instagram DM. And I'm like, you know what? Cool, whatever. They're about to send it to me. I'm going to hold my questions until I get it. So I get this thing, right? I open the bag. By the way, what does it come with? It comes with the DiSCARder, which is the apparatus itself. It also comes, they gave 3 gas jets and they gave the little tool. They give a little tool to install or remove the gas jets. By the way, that's awesome because what it is a little, it's like a flathead, but like with a specific notch size. And I can tell you right now, where I got my tool that I use, I bought it from Parker Mountain Machine. Those Scar dudes, wherever they are. So I know that that's pretty useful for people, and the fact that KNS sends that with it is cool. So they give you 3 gas jets or gas orifice screws of 3 different sizes, and they give you this tool. So anyway, so it came with that, and it came with this thing here, and they gave me stickers and some candy. Thank you, KNS. So this DiSCARder is very interesting. It's not like the Scarburator. And there's several differences, and they're very technical actually. And so I'm kind of hunting for the words to describe where I'm going to start. Okay, so it rotates with different radial positions. It rotates on an axis. Okay. And so what does it do? That means when you install this thing, you install it just like you would the stock regulator or the Mototech Scarburator, and once you put it in, it's in. And you don't press your detent on your Scar like you would on a stock regulator to change it to from 12 o'clock to 10 o'clock. You don't do that. You only put it like the Scarburator in one setting and then it's done. What does that mean? That means that from the gas orifice screw in your gas block on your Scar, which is timed top dead center, 12 o'clock, right? Or 6 o'clock if you're looking down on it. That top dead center gas port is always going to hit the ingress flow area on this DiSCARder, just like it would the ingress on the Scarburator from Mototech. It's going to hit that every time, and that thing's not moving, okay? You got that? Got it. So what does that mean? That means that area is fixed. On the Mototech Scarburator, you occlude that with a worm drive thing. With a helical occlusion, you occlude that port. What does that do? That is changing your flow area on the ingress into the piston assembly, meaning that what? What does the Mototech Scarburator do? It is a restricted setting gas regulator. Okay. Now, when you look at the KNS DiSCARder on the ingress area port, it goes right in. And then something very interesting that KNS did is that they have a nested protrusion that protrudes axially rearward towards your piston. It's like a center cylinder. Okay? So when the gas comes into the DiSCARder, it goes into this coaxial chamber, or actually it goes into an annulus around this center bore. And from that annulus goes backward into the piston housing to impinge upon the piston head. Inside the center bore, I proved this to myself. I'm gonna get ahead of myself a little bit here. I shined a light from the outside vent, and I saw how it goes into the center bore. The center bore is the vent channel, and that is how the DiSCARder regulates flow. Instead of occluding the gas ingress port, the DiSCARder occludes the vent orifice So, okay, and you're like, what? Like, I know, it's crazy. Listen. So what happened was, what they did is the gas comes in the bottom, jets around this inner core, shoves backward into the piston, and at the same time turns the corner, goes into the bore, and I said at the same time, I said, in sequence, goes into that bore, starts going out the front. Then there's a small port, and where's my flashlight? Oh, shoot. Sorry, I'm doing this real time, guys. It's taking me a second here. Flashlight. Okay. All right, so I can see in here there are multiple. There's at least two that I can see. Is that two? There's there's several holes. Oh man, is that perforated all the way around? Oh, 1 second. Oh my gosh, did they do that? That'd be wild. 1 second. Oh, I can't see it. Okay, I'm on the fully open setting, so that's why I can only see what I see. Okay, so what I can see right now on the fully open setting, when I say open, I mean, in this case, fully vented, I can see two pinholes. And I haven't used my pin gauges to try to get in there. It looks like, due to the geometry of this, I'm only going to be able to get in one anyway. Let's see. Am I going to be able to pin gauge that one hole? No, I'll only be able to pin gauge one of them. They might be the same size. The two pinholes in the inner vent core, when the KNS DiSCARder is set to the 0 setting, it has 13 settings. When it's set to the 0 setting, those two pin vent holes from the vent core are exposed to atmosphere, clearly, meaning that they have a clear path to atmosphere. So they're physically open to atmosphere. Now, when I look at the stock SCAR gas regulator, and I look at the two pin vent holes on it, which, by the way, is how a stock SCAR gas regulator vents, they look to be a little bit bigger in diameter. I have to pin gauge them, but they're also in a different configuration. So that's the same method by which this system vents. Now, I will say the stock gas regulator also vents in the center axis, so it's venting more. That remains to be seen what the total flow area is. Again, I don't know how many pinholes are inside the KNS system. I would have to take it apart completely. I haven't done that yet. I literally just got it. So anyway, I don't know that flow area, but suffice to say, it exists. That's on setting 0. Now, when you gradually turn the knob on the front of the DiSCARder from 0 all the way to 13, what you're doing is you're taking a helical path and you are occluding the area through which those two vent pinholes see atmosphere. Okay, so what are you doing? You're adjusting the vent. So, in short, the scarburator from Mototech adjusts your gas restriction into the gas block. The DiSCARder from KNS adjusts your venting out of the gas block. Okay? Both systems allow you to change the gas orifice screw size. Only one of them allows you to adjust the venting. The DiSCARder, this new one. So, what? And you know what's really crazy about this, guys? What was one of my desires and one of my wonders when I first talked about the Mototech scarburator? I said, man, I don't know if I like that. I wish I could vent like the stock gas block. I wish I could adjust the venting and not only the restriction, because I can do the restriction with the gas orifice screw. Now, is it fast to change your screws? Well, no. But what does this KNS system do? Well, this KNS system, to me, is allowing you to do way more than the carburetor. This is just, and look, I'm not saying the KNS system is better than the Mototech carburetor. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is the KNS DiSCARder, at first glance, mechanically, is giving more flexibility to the system. Because think about this. With the SCAR, you change your gas orifice screw, yeah? Well, now you can change the vent too, dynamically? Well, goodness gracious. Now I should say, does the full, let me open it. I have the manual. I downloaded the manual from, sorry guys. I downloaded the manual from their website. What it says, and it says, the laser engraved scale on the face of the DiSCARder indicates the level of energy being delivered to the piston to cycle the firearm. That's probably a true statement. Okay. The detent/notch points to the position it is currently in. Oh, okay. Sorry. I read that sentence weird. It says the detent/notch points to the position it's currently in. 0 being the lowest amount of energy delivered, 13 being the highest amount delivered. That's true, because what it basically says, when your detent thing is pointed to 0, it's venting the most. That would mean that has the lowest energy. And then when it's on 13, it's venting the least. It closes that entire orifice. It occludes the whole thing with the helical slot, the helical thing. And that means that 13 is the highest amount of energy, meaning that the least amount of vent. Right. So one thing they said when I was skimming this earlier, where is it? It says the KNS, here it is. The KNS DiSCARder functions by venting excess gas volume out of the regulator to reduce operating force. So the full closed position most closely resembles the factory gas setting and is a safe default setting for unsuppressed firearms shooting standard ammunition. So, well, regardless of that, if that's true or not, the fact that they say it's close to the factory thing, I find that very interesting that they're saying that, because the factory gas block vents out the front, and I don't know how much the KNS DiSCARder vents when it's in the closed setting. Maybe it still vents and I'm not seeing where that happens. So again, I haven't used this yet, so I don't know if that's true. The only way to really see if that is true is go test this, take the stock regulator and the KNS, put it on setting 13, which is fully closed, no venting, and see if I get the same answer with my mechanics. And if I do, well, maybe it's close, right? Is it the same exactly with the gas dynamics? I don't know, but anyway. So yeah, that's it. I'm sorry I haven't used it yet. I literally got it today, and it's really cold outside. So obviously I haven't had a chance to go shoot. But right now, man, SCAR owners just got like a late Christmas, because now we have like 3 options. We have the stock gas regulator, we got the Mototech carburetor, and now we got the KNS DiSCARder. So I'm going to let you know. I mean, I'm a little bit glad I haven't started a lot of SCAR testing yet, because it's like, oh man, what if this is even better? I did put a caution. I talked about this on an Instagram story. I did give a caution in that I do believe that the gas dynamics locally to the gas block, and specifically the shock propagation of the high pressure jets may be a little different in the KNS system. The fact that they have this this annulus they've developed here, it could be that allowed for more normalized flow, and so they tried to get it so that the vent would vent directly without doing some kind of back channel. Like, I don't know. It's hard to say. I need to look at them. I need to examine the weapon more, but I think I see what they've done. I think I like it. I don't know if it's going to work the way I think it is, but I think it has a good chance of working well. And I think that if it does, they have a winner on their hands. We're going to see I think the machining quality is top notch, and I think I'm excited to try it. Okay. So, I should tell you, I talked with FN at SHOT Show. Great guys. Shout out to all you folks. I discussed this with FN. Actually, I didn't talk about the KNS system, but I talked about the SCARder and some other stuff. So they're aware. They listen to the podcast. So I'm glad they do. Okay. I will give you guys an update on that when I can. Okay. But that has been update number 9 on the Pew Science SCAR project. And I'm excited to try that out. Okay. So stay tuned. All right. Let's move into topic 3 at a time of 1 hour, 35 minutes and 22 seconds. Okay, topic 3, new sound signature review this week. Yeah, that's right. We'll kick off February with something a little different, I think. And man, interesting silencer this week. 1 second. It's actually kind of neat. Kind of classic. Kind of not. Kind of interesting. I think you folks might get a kick out of it. I'm happy to be able to provide the information to the world. And I'm happy we'll continue to grow a particular data set that I think really deserves some focus due to its popularity. For not only historic reasons, but for practicality, I think. I think the practicality is something that it's good when you look at the regime I'm going to show you. So sit back, relax, enjoy some new data and analysis this week. It'll be good to examine the regime of interest. I think you folks will start to see some more peg points to set some expectations. That's one thing I'm most excited about, to get more peg points. I think it's always good to set expectations. I think also the limitations of certain platforms are good to explore. For example, now that we have so many Mark 18 tests in the rankings, people can see what's possible, right? And what may not be possible. With certain designs and with the Mark 18, I don't know. Now, what about other platforms? Not just the Mark 18, what about other platforms? So maybe can we zone in on similar limitations for the other platforms? I think so. Can we, zone in on similar thresholds we may be hitting? I think so. Do certain platforms have thresholds that are different? Absolutely. Do certain platforms have thresholds that are similar? Like no matter what the cartridge may be. Well, maybe so. We'll see. It's part of the learning. It's part of the testing. Part of the research. Yeah. So stay tuned, friends. I think that was a really vague topic for you, but stay tuned. I just want to let you know that we had one coming. So stay tuned. More data for you soon. Topic 4 at a time of 1 hour, 37 minutes, and 43 seconds. How's that for a 2-minute topic? Topic 4. Oh yeah, quick update on the requested testing from Pew Science members, clients, and the public. There's a lot of stuff that's going on. I wanted to talk about that. Thanks for your support. It really helps us, keep going. The members are running this thing. I don't know what I would do without you. So last time we talked, I asked you kind of like what you guys were wanting. And I got some strong feedback on social media, got some strong feedback from email. And I love that. When I request feedback and I get it, that helps me. Turns out 14.5 inch 5.56, so 14.5 mid-length gas, fixed gas port. It's a very, very strong contender for a new standard 5.56 host. As we zone in on that host configuration, we're going to need to pick the exact configuration, just like we did for the Mark 18. So one thing I'm looking at is the Daniel Defense M4A1 system. That might be it. I don't know. No, what's the gas port size? Well, I think we know that the 10.3 inch barrel Mark 18, that carbine length system, that's an 070 gas port. Well, the 14.5 inch M4A1 mid length, I think it's 076. Not sure. Gonna research it now. We got to figure out the buffer too, if we do that, right? What do we know about, go back to the Mark 18, what did we know? Well, we know the civilian models of Mark 18 came with an H buffer. But what did they do? Well, I surveyed armors from military and law enforcement. What did they do? They used H2s. Okay. So what did Pew Science do? Well, we used an H2 with the Mark 18. So for the M4A1, well, I got to see that. I got to do the same thing. Got to do the same research. If we're going to use something like that, right? It's part of the game. It's part of the game. Make sure we're picking the right thing. This is the due diligence. Yeah. Could be H2 again. Maybe we use an H2. Don't know yet. Got to do the surveys, right? We don't even know if we're going to pick the M4A1, but we need to see. Okay. Now, with regard to the tuning of the other lengths, well, it's ongoing. I think that's going to be members only. I was telling some folks about that. I think when I have an update on that, I'm going to give you one. I think 11.5-inch mid is looking like a very strong contender. A tuned 11.5-inch mid looking like a very strong contender for a member series. One gun, tuned to the gills. The high muzzle suppression performers, the high ear suppression performers, Thunderdome. 2 silencers enter, 1 silencer leaves. No, more than 2. There'll be more than 2 silencers. But yeah, we should do a Thunderdome. It'll be either be like 1 or 2 research studies on like head-to-heads with tuned, and it'll be for members only. That's what we'll do. I think that's what I'm settling into more and more, just because it's like, why? Like, I'm not going to belabor it, right? I'm not going to be like, oh, here's another week with this one. Like, oh, now we want this. Like, no, let me just hit those all at once, and we'll just continue with the standard stuff, like the 14.5, right? Okay, cool. And Mark 18. Mark 18 is not going away. It's just we're just adding hosts. That's right. Nothing goes away. We just add. Okay, cool. Now, with regard to environment, shooting environment, indoor testing, a lot of feedback from different groups. I've talked to a lot of people. Okay, I've actually Pew Science. I was talking to one of my gun friends online. You know, he talks to me about like what machine shops do and what they buy, and like what manufacturers do when they buy more equipment. I told him like, Pew Science is like that. We buy more equipment too. It's just that we're not making things. We're making data. Yeah, that's our product. So data analysis. So I have capital expenditure too, and so I've procured some more apparatus for that. We're in the development of some things that will assist making a lot of this a reality. So stay tuned for that. It'll definitely be, I think, a popular addition to the Silencer Sound standard. Definitely expanding operations. Very good. Will it be controversial? Oh yeah. Yeah, it'll be controversial for sure. But no one's ever done it before. So that's usually why things are controversial. Now, there may be other things that are added to the standard that are not sound, too. But doing that stuff too. That's right. Yeah, but doing that stuff too. I just don't tell you everything I do all the time. So for those things, please consult the list at the top of the rankings page in Section 7. Please note that Section 7.1 of the rankings section is the suppression rating, which is focused on sound signature. Okay, that is only Section 7.1. That's right. More may come. Okay, you never know. All right, so that's all I have for you today. If you are going to reach out to YouTube to try to help your fellow man, go for it. Email them or do it publicly. I think public is probably best for a company like that. I hope it gives people a good picture of the orders of magnitude we are dealing with when it comes to people who use and own guns and how they get information and what they do with that information. Okay, so little by little, I'm trying to do my part to tip those numbers in our favor. Okay, what I try to do at Pew Science is I try to give more information than I take in. Pay it forward. I'm trying to pay it forward. For all the things that I learned over the years, I'm trying to give orders of magnitude more information back. And so far, I think I'm doing that, okay? Baby steps, though. Okay, so stay tuned for more data this week, and I will talk with you folks again soon. All right, bye.